All right, well, welcome to week 6. We're getting close to halfway, actually, in a way. Um, so, Tonight is going to kind of be in 2 parts. I want to do some touching base in Moodle. I know a couple of you were not here last week, and I realized that I never went back and adjusted the assignments for last week to include some things we did last week about posting the URL for your Moodle and adding me as a user. So I want to make sure that those folks who weren't here last week get a chance to do that. But then while we're in Moodle, I kind of want to go back and just clean up a couple of odds and ends, mostly related to text formatting. Because obviously a big piece of working in Moodle are all of those text boxes where you're putting in content and formatting it and so on. And I'm sure a lot of you have figured out a lot of the basics of how to format text in there. But there's a couple of little tricks that I want to point out and a couple things I want to point out specifically related to that. So we'll spend the first bit in Moodle, and then just because we want to go into areas that have weird names, we're going to take a look at something called Powtoon. Has anybody in here used Powtoon or know what it is? Okay, good. My wife teases me all the time because it seems like every online service or thing that we use has some weird name to it. So she's like, which weird name are you teaching him this week? And I'm like, it's Powtoon. She's like, you're making that up. No, it's actually called Powtoon. You know, you get Powtoon and Moodle and Wix and all this other stuff. So we're going to take a look at Powtoon. Powtoon is basically an online animation software app website. So it's kind of going to tie into last week's discussion of video. Our main focus last week was kind of on traditional video, live action video of people talking and things like that. But animation has also become a big part of the video world too. And so I just want to kind of walk you through Powtoon. One of the reasons I'm not pushing Powtoon, but we're using Powtoon is that I actually do have a teacher subscription to Powtoon. And because of that, if I add you guys or you guys add yourselves as students to my account, you'll have access to all of the content that Powtoon has. You can sign up for your own account, but the free account is limited in terms of what content you can have access to. Of course, they want you to pay money to get the premium account. So at least for the duration of this semester, once you've signed up, you can feel free to use Powtoon to create animations if you would like to use them in your Moodle or things like that. So we're going to get to play around in Powtoon tonight and kind of do a bit with that. And then we'll just talk about what's due for next week and kind of where we're headed next and go home. So sounds like an evening. So in terms of our Moodles, regardless of whether you were here last week or not here last week, get logged into your... yes, there we go. Logged into your Moodle Cloud environment. Hopefully you remember what your login is. That's always the biggest thing. Got lucky. I always feel like I should have the Jeopardy theme to play for these moments. Have a little sound bite. Should be whatever name you picked, .moodlecloud.com. And then it's a matter of remembering your username and password, which unfortunately I can't help you with. But I've been an avid air drummer since like junior high. My Mom was always concerned when I learned to drive that I was going to get in an accident because I would be air drumming while I was driving. Hasn't happened yet. Knock on wood.
I have to reset my password. I don't know what email to use, so I gotta open the big one, wait for it to.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I give folks a moment to
you know what I'm doing.
get logged in. So to kind of recap, and I know most of you were here last week, and I believe went through all this. But last week, one of the main things we talked about was adding users to your Moodle. And this is, again, one way that Moodle Cloud is different from, say, the full Moodle service that the university uses. The university service, students can self-enroll. They can enroll themselves into a course and sign themselves up. Because these Moodle Cloud accounts are limited by numbers of users, you as the manager of the site have to kind of add people in order for them to be able to access your Moodle. So what we did last week, and primarily for those who weren't here, is when you're logged in, you want to go to Site Administration, and in Site Administration, go to the tab that says Users, and then under Accounts, Add New User. And what I had asked you to do last week so that I can see your Moodles is to add a new user where the username, what did I do? It was Prof Miller, P-R-O-F-M-I-L-L-E-R is the username. All one word, all lowercase, just Prof Miller. Leave it on manual accounts. Don't check either of the check boxes for suspending the account or generating the password. And then where it says new password, click on there to enter the text. And it's simply the reverse. It's Miller Prof, M-I-L-L-E-R-P-R-O-F. And then do click the force password change box. And then put in my name as David, first name, surname is Miller, and my email address, use my central, which is millerd@ccsu.edu. Again, most of you did this last week, but I want to get everybody caught up. All the rest of it you can ignore. So David, Miller, millerd@ccsu.edu, and then create the user. Yeah, I know. Then the other thing you have to do is add me to your class. So if you go into the course that you're creating, and here on the left-hand side, you're going to go to participants. And then where it says search keyword or search, you should be able to, oh, sorry, no, you have to hit enroll users. That's right. And then from there, if you go in the search, you should have me in there as probably the only available user other than yourself. And assign me as the role of a teacher. And then click enroll users. And then that way, what I'll be able to do is go into your Moodle and provide feedback. So the other thing, and this is where I think I'm not sure if I gave you guys time to do this, but I had said I was going to do something in the assignments for the week, and I forgot to go back to do it. But if you could all, if you have not, in your course, right up in the top section, just add a, we ended up deciding it had to be a forum, and call the forum teacher feedback or feedback, something along those lines. I will then use that location when I look at your Moodles to provide you feedback about your Moodle, and then you can also reply back to me and so on. So that should be added at the top, so that you've got that there, and just call it feedback or something along those lines.
Is that chat, right?
Yeah. There are a couple of things that are available in the sort of the full version of Moodle that are not in Moodle Cloud. One of them is called a dialogue, and that's what I usually use for that feedback, but for whatever reason, they don't include dialogue as one of the activity options here. So then just to bring everybody up to speed, the last thing that I need you to do if you did not do it last week is to copy the URL for your class, go back to our class Moodle, and in last week's, in the week 5, right near the top, there's a Moodle project URL posting place, assignment. And all you need to do, it's not even going to be submitting the assignment. What we discovered was all you have to do is do it under the comments. So if you go in, where did I just put it here? Oh, right. Oh, wait, I can do it this way. Is where you have comments. You can just click on the comment and just paste the URL into the comment. And again, most of you did get this taken care of last week. I've got, let's see, I've got Tim's, I've got JD's, I've got Joseph's, and my mouse freezes. Got Nick, got Vincent. Let me reload here. So if you just post that to that comment, then what I can do is go in and click on that URL or copy that URL. So that's just a way for you to get the URL to me for your Moodle so that I can start looking at it. All right. Any questions? All right. Apologies to those of you who had already taken care of all that, but I figure it was just a good moment to kind of make sure that's all done. So while we are here in the Moodle then, so if you can go back to your actual Moodle, just by way of kind of overview, to see what we've covered so far, when you go into the list of activities, you have had experience now with assignment activities. The TIP write-ups that you've been doing and submitting, that's a Moodle assignment activity. So you see how those work, you kind of understand what they're good for, what they do. We're not going to worry about the big blue button BN because that has to do with incorporating external video conferencing into your Moodle beyond the scope of this class. The chat, we have not used the chat. I'm going to try to work that in. The weird thing, though, is that chat is really designed to set up a chat room for your students to communicate with each other. And that really only makes sense when your students aren't all already sitting in the same room with each other. So if I'm using this and teaching this in an online class, we use the chat a lot so that rather than breaking you up into groups in here where you're talking to each other, you can actually set up chat rooms and then have people go to those chat rooms, and it gives them a place where they can converse. So we might use that in here, but that might be one that if you're interested in setting it up in your Moodle, you can kind of explore on your own. Choice we used way back at the beginning of the course. The first day I gave you a quick question about how, do you know, I think it was Addy. I gave you a question about Addy. So that's if you just want a really quick feedback from your class. We used the database tool a few weeks ago when we were doing the graphic design. So that allows your students to create entries where you can kind of pre-format what information they've got to put in, and then they fill in the details. We're not going to worry about external tools. Feedback is another way for you to post a quick question. I'm going to try to incorporate at least one of those into our class Moodle down the road. We've had a lot of experience now with forums, so you should have an understanding of what that's about. We are going to do the glossary tonight, so you'll get a chance to experience what glossary is like. It's kind of like database, only it's like database light, where you're only putting in a term and a description for the term. Lessons, we're probably not going to go into a lesson. A lesson really, you can create an entire framework of sub-content within Moodle and then put that into one of your Moodle sections. So it allows you to branch learning out. You could present material a bunch of different ways, and your students can actually decide which path they want to take. Again, that goes a little beyond the scope of what we're going to do in here. We are going to talk about quizzes when we get to assessments. SCORM packages, don't worry about that. That's another external thing. And then survey is it sounds like that would be a great tool to use if you want to get a quick read on a class. These are pre-constructed survey instruments. and they're very specific. So they're verified survey instruments. So you can take a look at them, but you don't really have any control over customizing them. So they're pre-populated. If you want to create your own, that's where you would use the feedback. That's if you want to get sort of set up your own quick survey. We did the wiki last week when we were doing the video. And the workshop, kind of like the lesson, is one that is a little beyond the scope of what we can cover, because that's another one you can see even here. But that allows students to submit work and then opens up that work for other students to comment on. But students can't comment on another student's work until they've submitted their own work. So that's kind of another, this one, the lesson, and what was the other one? Are really sort of larger structures. So we've covered a good amount of the activities, and we will cover a few more as we go along. But at this point in your own Moodles, feel free to start incorporating any of these. One of the first weeks when you're doing your design work, I said, which of the Moodle activities do you see maybe using in your unit? Now that you've had a chance to see a lot of them in use, feel free to start adding them in if they seem appropriate. Resource-wise, again, we've already now had experience with many of these. You've seen files anytime in our Moodle that I have a PDF for you to read. So when we're reading doing the readings and stuff, that's a file page. Labels, that's just if you want a text on your page that really is not interactive. So you've seen those all over my Moodle. You can certainly use them in your Moodle as well to help organize content. We should be really familiar with pages at this point. We've used URLs as well for whenever I've given you external links to content and so on. So we're getting there. We've covered a fair amount of the kinds of things you can put into Moodle. So I just kind of wanted to take a moment to let you see what we've covered so far and what we're still going to cover. So what I want to focus on today are the text boxes. And this is not going to take terribly long. And you can, if you've got a dummy page or something you want to do on your own while you're doing this, but you can also just kind of follow along. So here I have just a normal page, test page. And just like a lot of the activities, one of the main elements are these text input boxes where you can format stuff. I'll go down to the content one. So, ooh, blah diddy blah blah blue. I don't remember doing that. I must have. So every time you go into one of these boxes in Moodle Cloud, you get this toolbar across the top. And you can probably figure out or have figured out what most of this stuff is. They have a certain number of pre-formatted paragraph styles that you can use. Bold, italics, bulleted lists, numbered lists. This is if you want to put in hyperlinks. And I have noticed on a couple of submissions where people have, like on your forum posts, where people have pasted in a URL. If you notice that it's not an active URL, Moodle won't automatically know that something's a URL. Some programs will. They'll go, oh, that's a URL. I'm going to make that clickable. Moodle doesn't do it automatically. So if you want to have something actually clickable, you've got to put the text in, you highlight the text, and then you put a link, and then you paste in the URL for the link. Just as a tip, I usually do click the Open in New Window button. A lot of times it's useful when somebody's on a Moodle, if they're going to something, that it opens up somewhere new so that where they were is still available. And then it makes it a little easier. They just have to close that new page and they're right back where they were before. But that's kind of up to you. So that's for making links and breaking links. And then if you want to embed actual content, files, you've got this group here for images, videos, audio. You can actually, I've never done this, you can actually record a video right into the Moodle. I've actually never done it myself, so I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I imagine it just uses your webcam and then creates the video file right there. And then you can also, there is a file manager. So if there's files that you want to have access to across a number of classes, you can put them in this file manager and then draw from that and put content into a page. So you can do that as well. So this stuff I think is all pretty apparent. What's not so apparent is this first icon here opens up a whole additional set of formatting tools, which you may not have discovered. And these get into some more technical things. However, depending on what you're trying to put in, they may be useful. So right off the bat, you've got some more formatting here, underlining, striking through, and sub and super scripts. So if you're doing any kind of technical stuff or formulas or things like that, this is where you'll find that formatting. You can do justification of the texts. You can do indenting or outdenting, I guess they call it, indenting and outdenting. I've never heard that, outdent. Just like enroll with only one L, which we discovered last week. But then here, this set is where, for certain of you, these may be really useful. This one is actually an equation editor. So if you're doing mathematical things or physics things, what this allows you to do is to build equations using, equation whatever protocols. So it gives you access to a set of characters that you wouldn't normally have access to. You get arrows, you even get some of the Greek symbols. So if you need theta or any of those, here you even get, sigma notation and square rooting and stuff like that. So this is just, sometimes it can be hard, and I'm not a math teacher, but I know sometimes it's tricky to build formulas the way they're supposed to look if all you've got is normal text. You can't get things above and below each other and stuff like that. So, so this allows you to build equations. So that's something that's available to you. The one right next to it is a character insert. And we've all run into these situations, especially if maybe you're a world language teacher or something. Oh, how do I get that weird character symbol? Do I push the command? Is it command control? Is it shift command? Is it? So this basically gives you access to all of the common, all of the diacriticals and the schwas and the whatever umlauts and accent marks and all that kind of stuff. Even it looks like you've got Cyrillic notation down here. You've got the arrows at the bottom. So if you just want those types of characters, there's the hearts, clubs, spades, and diamonds. So that's another useful tool to have available for doing those weird formatting things. I run into this because in music, we use the little degree symbol a lot, because in music that means a diminished triad or a diminished scale. And I'm always forgetting what combination I need to do to get that little degree symbol. So here it is right here. So all I'd have to do is come in here or here and click on it, and it'll give me those symbols. So that's good to know that it's there. The one next to it allows you to insert a table. Tables can be useful for formatting. If you need to get stuff to line up and to be in columns, that can be hard to do if you're just doing straight text. So this gives you access to a whole set of table tools. The one next to it allows you to clear formatting. So if things have got out of control and you want to just take it back to straight text, this tool allows you to actually clear formatting. And then the one that I really want to point out is the very last one here, which is the two carets with the slash in between. This allows you to put in raw HTML text. And I'm not expecting anybody in here to know how to program in raw HTML. But where this is useful, and I use this every week in our class Moodle, is if you want to embed, say, a YouTube video, right? If you just put a link into a YouTube video on your page, your viewer will have to click on the link. It'll take them out of your Moodle to YouTube and then view it in YouTube's interface. But as you probably know, if you're looking at a YouTube video and you go to the share button underneath it, one of the things it will do is give you the full embedding code for that video. So you click embed, copy that, and if you come into your page then and go into that HTML editor and paste that in, when you go back into normal, you will actually see the YouTube video right on the page. So it's a way to get content in, and a lot of different places will allow you to embed information right into a page. So I could do a really quick thing here because I'm on YouTube. I'm just going to go to Patty Gurdy. If you don't know what the hurdy-gurdy is an instrument, or ads. All right. So Patty Gurdy, she's a hurdy-gurdy player. She plays an electric hurdy-gurdy, does kind of Irish Celtic, pirate, goth rock kinds of stuff. It's really bizarre. She just had a new album come out. Anyway, so say that I wanted to have this video on my website. If I come down to share and click embed, it's going to give me all of this, HTML text that I need. I don't even have to highlight it. I can just say copy. And then if I go back to my Moodle and go in here, let me give a couple spaces, go into that HTML and paste it. When I go back, that video is now right there embedded on my page. And all the controls will be there. It can go full screen. It can do all that stuff. You can change the size. You can even have it start at a certain second. So if you found an instructional video on something, but you really only want it to start 1 minute and 30 seconds in, you can do that in YouTube, tell it to start 1:30 in, and it'll even embed that information into it. So that little tool right there, that HTML tool, I actually use a lot. That's how I put our weekly recordings onto the Moodle. So if you want to get external content in, that's the way to do it. And I know why they did it. They wanted to keep things clean and kind of just the tools you would use normally. But the fact that they kind of hide that thing is the very last button under the advanced tools. So just be aware that that's there as a tool to use if you would like to get external content actually embedded into your Moodle page. All right. Yeah, I may as well save that. Why not put Patty Gurdy in there? So now for the visitor, if they click on your page, that's what they'll see. So there's my blottity blue, but now that video is also right there. And if I play it, I can go full screen and that's what a hurdy-gurdy looks like. It's a cranked string instrument. It's a really bizarre instrument, but they're really kind of cool. All right, so in terms of kind of Moodle catch-up, that's mainly what I wanted to go over, were those two things, just kind of overviewing what we've covered so far in terms of activities and what things we will still cover. So you can start, I don't have a specific assignment because I don't want to tell you must use a forum in your thing and you must use this. I want you to use them if they are the appropriate tool for what you're teaching. But I am trying to expose you to as many of the activities as possible so that if you're going through it and going, oh, that would actually be a really good thing for my students to use for this particular thing, then you can start throwing them in there. So one of the assignment things for this week is just kind of a general, keep working on your Moodle. Start getting the content built into the sections. Start adding in activities as you think they will be useful and getting those formatted. Each activity has its own unique sort of things that you set up with it, but it's all pretty self-explanatory and pretty straightforward in terms of getting any of them set up. And then I just wanted to make sure, because I realized I should have probably done this, and I probably meant to do this one of our first weeks, is to kind of go through all that text formatting stuff, because that shows up everywhere. I mean, even if you're doing a forum post as a student, you have access to all of those text formatting tools. So you can even be formatting your forum posts and adding in external content and doing all that stuff as well. All right, so in terms of Moodle, and because I didn't have everybody's URLs and all that, I didn't really get a chance this week to look at Moodles, but that's my goal this week, is to look at everybody's Moodles and to give you some feedback. But while we're here, does anybody have questions about the Moodle project or what they're doing or something they ran into? Everybody feels like they're in pretty good shape about what their Moodle is about and what it should be doing and so on. Okay. Good. Okay. All right, so we can leave that. Oh, look, it's an assignment activity. And Our fun topic tonight, well, not that Moodle's not fun, but is to talk about Powtoon. I'm sure all of you, if you've done any sort of searching around the web looking for instructional videos or almost videos of any sort, have come across animated instructional videos. Animation has a couple of advantages over live action, and it has some disadvantages. What might an advantage be to doing something in an animated format as opposed to a live action format? What do you think?
You don't have to get the people for it.
Yeah, you don't need the talent,
Yeah.
right? Put the actors out of a job. Okay, so certainly, and especially if you're trying to create something on your own, might be easier just to do it through animation. What else might be? Oh no, I'm making you think on a Thursday night at 8 o'clock. What's that?
Kind of fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, oh, you mean it's fun trying to think at 8 o'clock on a Thursday? Or the animations are fun? Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. No, and that is one of them too. I mean, cartoons sort of engage, particularly students of a certain age, probably better than having somebody standing there talking to them, right? They are fun. They're stylized. They're catchy. They can be colorful in a way that a live action maybe can't be. I would say too that a lot of times it's easier to control an animated environment than a live environment. You don't have to pay so much attention to, well, what's behind me, or where am I going to set this up, or where's my camera going to go, or things like that. Am I in focus? When you're building an animation, if you don't tell it to be there, it won't be there. So if you go back to both our Gestalt principles from graphic design and some of the things we discovered last week with the video, simplicity. You want to make sure that everything that is being seen should be there and is supporting the message. So in an animated environment, it might be a lot easier to highlight the thing you want people to be looking at or thinking about. So there are definitely some advantages to animation. Not all the time. Animation can sometimes seem a bit trite or unserious. Sometimes you really do want an actual person's face. You're not going to really get, especially through services like Powtoon, it's not going to be fully animated mouths and everything like that. It's going to be kind of at a cartoony, simplistic level. So, use both as tools as needed. So to kick it off, I'm going to just show you a video that was made in Powtoon. In one of my classes last year, one of our first activities was I had everybody come up with an inspirational quote, something that has inspired them in the classroom or something that they think about when they're in the classroom. And then we took all of those quotes and we put them into a Powtoon video. So I'll show you this video up here so that you can kind of get a sense of what you can do in Powtoon and what it's like. So let me go full screen on this and hit play. So I'm sure everybody has seen videos that look sort of like that. So everything there was all built out of Powtoon content, things that they give you. Basically, Powtoon is a drag and drop environment. They give you the framework. In some ways, it's kind of like building a PowerPoint. It works in slides. And on each slide, you build a little scene out of things. The main difference between this and something like PowerPoint is the animation part of it. You can get things to move, you can get things to interact. So it's not as static as doing a PowerPoint. You can add music. I didn't do a voiceover on this, but you can add voiceovers as well. So that's another option too. So what we're going to basically do tonight is get a chance to play around in the Powtoon environment and just kind of poke around a bit and see what it can do and how it does it. And along the lines, we are also going to use a glossary activity. So the first thing is I need to get you guys all into my Powtoon classroom. So on our Moodle page, there is a Powtoon classroom link. And that, if you click on that, should take you to a place that's going to ask you to join my class. All you got to do is put in your name, username. You get to pick the username and the password. And then all you got to do is click sign up. And what that will do is put you into Powtoon. And you are now in underneath my account. So this account won't stay with you forever. Eventually, I will have to expire you out of the account because I only have a limited number of users that can be in here at once. But at least for this semester, what being in my class gives you is access to all of the Powtoon content.
As far as this premium trial ends, is that going to impact like our ability to make stuff or do stuff?
It should not, because you're under my educational account. So that warning. Yeah, I'll have to see. Because normally no. It should give you access to everything for as long as you're in my account. But we'll find out. If something expires, let me know. But it shouldn't. It shouldn't. Oh, have you already used?
I don't know, I haven't, but I've tried like 3 different usernames. It says it's taken.
Huh. I don't know, throw some random number at the beginning of it or something. I don't know.
I recommend 8675.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, tonight is, again, the goal of tonight is not to make you guys expert Powtooners, but to give you some experience in an environment like this, especially since it seems like none of you has been, at least in this environment. I don't, maybe you've used something else like it. But basically, from the main page, one of the things that they do, and a lot of these sites do it, is they give you kind of templates. For me personally, I tend to like to work from scratch. I like to control my own destiny. But if you're in a hurry or you want to get something quickly put together, especially for educational stuff, the explainer video or the presentation, it's like using one of the templates in PowerPoint, where it basically kind of pre-formats a bunch of stuff with placeholders, and then you can go in and just change the placeholders. But we're going to poke around more today. So what we are going to do is create a blank Powtoon. And it's going to load awesomeness, as it says. All right. And so one of the first things is these, now I'm forgetting what they call them. It's not modes. Looks, I think they call them. Looks. So all of their content, and this is a good graphic design thing, they group all of their content by style. It doesn't mean if you choose a style that throughout your video or your animation, you can't pull from all different styles. But generally speaking, a good rule of thumb, if you're going to create something like this, is to stick within one particular look. It'll make the experience more unified. It'll confuse your viewers less. So if you want to use, cartoony stuff, stick with the cartoony look throughout. If you're going to do, you saw the one that I did that I just showed you was the whiteboard style where it's all outlines. You kind of stick with that style throughout. So you have to pick one now, but once you're in, you can be changing that all the time. So I'm going to go for Modern Edge here. Then they give you some different things down here at the bottom. But Modern Edge. So once you've selected that, it'll take you into the main interface. And you can obviously pick whichever one you feel like working with tonight. It doesn't really matter. So right off the bat, if you want to change the look, right up here in the top right-hand corner is the look. So you can, at any time, select a different one. It won't change anything you've already put in. It's not like it'll go back and reformat what you've already done. It just means that in terms of what it's showing you, that it will be showing you just stuff that falls within that particular content area. All right, so I'm going to set the stage for this, and then I'm going to have each one of you take a look at one of the categories of stuff that can go in, and you're going to do a quick glossary entry describing what that category contains and what you discovered about it. And then we will talk a little bit more about actually then constructing things and getting them to move and animate and stuff like that. So the basic structure here is slides. You can think of each slide as being sort of a scene of your video. So just like in PowerPoint, you build off of slides. If you have multiple slides, you will have places to put transitions in between the slides. We'll get to that. So that's kind of your slide viewer over there. This is your main place where you're going to be building the content. You'll be dragging things in and adding them in and moving them around and typing and all of that. You can at any time, if you want to, turn on a grid if you're one of those people that really likes to line stuff up. That gives you a nice little tool there. You can change the setup of it from horizontal, which is the default, to square, to vertical. If you know it's got to go somewhere specific on a particular format, that's where you can change that. So that's sort of an overall setting. If you need to zoom in, this is your zoom control. So if you need to get in there and make sure something's lined up, you can zoom in. Then you'll have on the right-hand side, this is where all of the content is. And depending on which category you've clicked into, next to it here will be the things from that category. So this is kind of your content picker over here. And then across the bottom is the timeline. And we'll come back to the timeline once we've actually got things in the scene. All right. So let's see, we have what tonight? 7? Let's see. Let's do... Yeah, I'll do, actually, I already did the background one, so that just leaves us 8. Now, I'll take care of the last category. So we'll just do this. I'm just going to go around the room. So you're going to take text. You'll have the characters. You'll have objects or props, I think they call them. You'll get shapes. You'll have images. You'll have videos. And you'll have audio. All right, so I'm purposefully not kind of telling you what any of these things do. So what you're going to do is open up whatever area I just gave you and kind of poke around a little bit and maybe drag some things out or look at what's there. And then in our Moodle, there is our Powtoon glossary. And what you will do is come into the glossary, and you can see I've already put background, look, scene, and slide in here. is you will create a quick entry, add a new entry, just title the entry with whatever your area is. And then as you can see, I'm just looking for a sentence or maybe two of kind of what's in that category, what kinds of things are there, and maybe if you discover anything useful about them, right? So this shouldn't take terribly long, but just do a little exploration of the content that's in there and see what you find.